So it's fair to say that qualifying today around the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, the Baku City Street Circuit, was a very eventful affair. There was a lot going on, some big shocks. I've already covered that in a review, but something that I didn't go too in depth, I gave it a mention, but I didn't go too in depth about was the fact that Pierre Gasly was disqualified from qualifying. So why? What happened to the Alpine driver? Why was he thrown out of qualifying? Now this isn't the first time this has happened this season. Just look at Alex Albon over in the Dutch Grand Prix, where he was thrown out because of an illegal car. Basically the floor had some illegal measurements on there, so he was thrown out. Doing a similar thing for Pierre Gasly today, because he actually had quite a good qualifying session in fairness, but there might be a reason for that. There might be an illicit reason for that. I'll explain why very shortly, but he ended up qualifying originally in P13, but instead he has been disqualified. He will not, well, I think he's either going to have to start from the pit lane or he'll have to start from the back of the grid. I believe the rule is that he'd have to start from the pit lane because technically he didn't qualify for the grid, he's been disqualified, so he's effectively got no place. His teammate Esteban Ocon had a shocker today. He qualified all the way at the back initially. Only Zhou Guan Yu actually initially being behind him because of penalties to his Sauber's basically engine allocation parts, the power unit parts. He exceeded them, so he got penalties. He'd have to start at the back of the grid. But he on pure pace, Ocon even got out qualified by the Saubers, which is terrible, really. But yeah, he had an incident that caused yellow flags that ended up affecting Lando Norris. I've also done a video on Lando Norris, basically explaining why he was so slow, why he's so far down the grid. But let's focus on Gasly, because he initially qualified in P13, which is a really good job, to be honest. I mean, with that Alpine struggling with its engine traditionally, that Renault engine being the worst one on the grid by some distance, that's a good effort in my books, especially when I was throwing it in the wall. Not retiring from the session, but still making contact with the wall on a number of occasions and having problems from there. But why did Gasly get disqualified? Well, let's have a look at what the stewards have to say, because the stewards have, as they always do for incidents like this, they have released an official document here explaining why he has been disqualified. And the fact, as it were, the reason why he has received this penalty is because he has exceeded the instantaneous fuel mass flow limit. But what does that mean? Well, let me explain here. So I'll just read out the official reason here, because it says that car 10 is disqualified from qualifying, Gasly basically. And it's a pretty standard penalty because, when you exceed something like this, a fundamental rule in Formula 1, you've effectively set a lap time, you've used a car that is effectively set up in a configuration that is illegal, so therefore you get thrown out. It's pretty standard, like Albon with his floor, like if a car can't provide a big enough fuel sample. But let's have a look at the official reasons. So the stewards heard from the team representative of car 10, Pierre Gasly, including the sporting director and the engineer involved, and the FIA technical delegate, along with the FIA engineers managing the measurements and data from the car. The driver was summoned to give the opportunity to provide a defence, but did not attend the hearing, probably because he can't really defend him. The technical delegate reported that car 10 exceeded the permitted 100 kilograms per hour fuel mass flow on the final time lap of Q2. So basically you have a certain fuel flow limit. It's all to do with how much fuel is flowing into the engine. The more fuel flows into the engine, the more power the engine can create, and therefore the faster you go. There is a limit on that, which is 100 kilograms per hour. So if it runs at 100 kilograms per hour, you will burn 100 kilograms of fuel per hour. The reason why this is a mass, or a weight if you will, and technically it's a mass, but we'll just say it's a weight in this instance, rather than a litre amount, is because litres are effectively an area. Fuel, such a fluid such as fuel, that changes the amount of surface, amount of total volume, the amount of area, if you will, in a 3D space that it occupies depending on the temperature. That is why it is a mass. And it also goes into things like, the overall mass of the car and stuff like that. But in this case, let's just go into the actual fuel. So yeah, the team representative explained that they had an unexpected short duration of technical fault that raised the fuel mass flow greater than expected in a transient fashion. The cause was agreed by the FIA technical staff. So interesting, it wasn't deliberate, it was an accident, but unfortunately the end result is that it was illegal. The competitor demonstrated to the stewards that the technical fault resulted in a slower lap time and that no performance advantage was obtained. Interesting, so it didn't improve his performance. Thus, they argue this should be taken into mitigation. They also noted that the great rarity of breaches in this article demonstrates that this is not part of their strategy, and that the scale of the transient simply exceeded the margin they maintain to prevent a breach. It was basically an accident, so I understand why I understand it, but it's black and white. They've gone over the rules. They've not done it deliberately, but they've gone over the rules. It's a bit like if your plank is too far worn down because you've run over curbs and stuff like that, your plank is still worn down too much. It's black and white. It's a disqualification. It is harsh. It is harsh, and you guys know me. I am the biggest critic of Alpine you will find. I am not a fan of them. They make a mockery of themselves on a regular basis, but this is an honest to God mistake, and I do feel for them. I really do. The usual penalty for a breach of the technical regulations is disqualification, and the stewards note that Article 1.33 of the International Sporting Code states if an automobile is found not to comply with the applicable technical regulations, it shall be no defence to claim that no performance advantage was obtained, basically saying that even though they say there's no performance advantage, doesn't matter, they still broke the rules. In addition to the code, this has long been the position of the International Court of Appeal. Thus, the stewards apply the usual penalty and disqualify the car and driver from the classifications in qualifying. So yeah, there you go. Basically, guys, they went over the actual fuel flow limit. It wasn't deliberate. It was effectively a glitch. It was a mistake in the system. It is harsh, but it is fair. Unfortunately, those are the rules. So yeah, harsh on Gasly. He had a good day today, and that apparently did not benefit his overall performance in qualifying. So he legitimately qualified in P13. Fair play to the guy, but he's got it all to do tomorrow because he's starting from the pit lane. So yeah, let us know what you think about this in the comments below, guys. And of course, I hope that answers your question. For much more F1 analysis and F1 explained videos and reaction to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix weekend, keep it tuned here to the F1Chronicle.com.